Hey, how's it going, guys? This is your boy Hazzed, and today we're going to be going over the Frost DK Arena Guide, trying to equip you guys with the best knowledge of spec rotation, and of course going about initiating fights, CC, focus macros, burst macros, just things along those lines, guys. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump into this and do this. Let me go over real quick the talents in their entirety, not the PvP talents yet. We're going to be going over the PvE or DK talents. Now I'm going to be explaining these, explaining the different builds and why they're being played in higher rated arena and also double frost DK comps. Now my personal favorite is definitely going to be the single target, referred to as the machine gun spec. Now, there are different variations of this being played in Arena to actually deal either more burst or more consistency, but all in all, this is going to be your base spec for the machine gun spec. And then if you want more now burst, more later burst, more consistency, you can tweak some things to, of course, go about that. So let me explain how this spec kind of works. The level 56 talent, Icy Talons, of course, is going to increase your haste by 30%. Now, that's going to make you attack faster, of course, which causes more procs, more damage on the target. The also strong thing about this talent is it procs up Runic Attune, which basically generates runic power off of course, your melee strikes, granting more healing, more frost strikes, more damage, longer elongated haste in your rotation to deal a lot of damage. That's the other reason why our level 57 talent is Frozen Pulse, because Frozen Pulse is not something you can control, but fills the downtime gaps to keep a major consistency for grinding someone's health down, to always keep them in a range to where either a kick, a CC, or something small around those lines can actually deal and be devastating based around the strong consistency that Frost DK has. As for the level 58 talent, we're definitely going to be running Ice Cap. Now, it doesn't really matter what spec you're playing. About 95% of the DKs I see are using Ice Cap. Now, where does the OP-ness in Ice Cap come from? Yeah, no, we said that word. Anyways, where's the OP-ness in Ice Cap come from? Basically, when you Frost Strike or Obliterate, it reduces the cooldown of Pillar of Frost. Now, you're thinking a reduced cooldown on Burst, really strong. Yes, it is. The other thing, it's also going to reduce the cooldown on your major stuns. Now, since you're reducing the cooldown on the, of course, your major burst and your stuns, the other thing that this ability is going to do is going to allow you to offset 1 minute major cooldowns with healers and just about any class in the game, really. As you can imagine why a lot of Frost DKs are enjoying the double DK comp at the moment, 2 DKs come in with Ice Cap, they both can offset cooldowns for the healer, and usually within the first 2 bursts, the healer or somebody's going to die because of how kind of awkward those cooldowns are, and it really grants kind of a random ability to really perform on a Frost DK based upon that ability alone. It really adds like an extra flavor. It's really nice. So yeah, definitely go with that, guys. For the level 60 talent, you're going to be wanting to be using Winter is Coming for this build, and of course we just talked about reducing the cooldown of your major CDs, of course using Ice Cap, and of course Icy Talons generating more runic power, so you get more Frost Strikes, which have a chance to generate runes, of course, and of course it gives you more Ice Cap. It's a big circle with this spec. Obviously it fits to itself very well when it comes to dealing quite a bit of damage. As for the level 75 talent, we're going to be going with White Walker. Why White Walker? Because it reduced damage taken while in Wraith Walk by 20%, which actually turns out to be pretty strong when it comes to fighting rogues, mages, things like that that are about to burst on you. You pop that, dispel the root, get the heck away from them, and why, of course, you're taking damage, it's being reduced. Turns out to be very strong in Arena when used at the correct time. Alright, so as for the level 90 talent, we've already talked about Runic Attune, which basically complements Icy Talons, which complements Ice Cap, and it's a big circle. Alright, so the level 100 talent I like to use personally is Obliteration. Now, some people like to use the Glacial Advance. Glacial Advance will give you more consistency in between bursts, while Obliteration, not during your second burst, but your first and third burst, is going to give you a lot more proccing and damage power. Now, let's say you don't want to play this consistency spec. You want a little more burst, but you don't want to fully commit to the major breath spec. What you can do is go Murderous Efficiency, you go Freeze and Fog, you keep Ice Cap unless you want to go Avalanche and run on like a full minute cooldown timer, which I don't necessarily suggest unless you and your partner are really, really good at bursting and know exactly what you're doing. Otherwise, go with Ice Cap because it's really going to profit you as a general player, I'd have to say, just because of how it offsets cooldowns. Even if you're not an amazing CC'er, this one is going to help you a lot stronger in that case. Of course, we're still sticking with Winter's Coming, still sticking with White Walker. As for Runic Attune, we're going to click over to Gathering Storms, which is going to cause your Remorseless Winter to increase damage per rune spent. And then down at the bottom, you're going to want to go with Obliteration. This is what we call the Bursty Machine Gun Consistency spec. And basically, Frost DKs are using this in Arena to have some insane burst on healers during their burst and absolutely cause them to explode. We're talking Disc Priest and all kinds of things, just exploding instantly. Now, you can imagine if you're going to run this spec, guys, and you come up against a Holy Paladin, you're still going to be fine. But if you're running the other spec, which you can dump more, of course, Runic Power and Obliterate into your Icy Cap to reduce your cooldowns, offsetting the cooldowns on those bubbles, since, of course, running Frost DK or Bursty comps, which you probably will be doing on a Frost DK, ends up being harder to get through bubbles and stuff. You know, it's kind of the counter for, us Burst comps. Surprisingly, there's not a lot of Holy Pallies at the moment, so you're kind of safe on that one. So this Ice Cap build ends up being really, really strong and really viable inside of Arena. Now let's jump over to some Honor Talents, since we've kind of gone over those base specs that you want to be playing in high-rated Arena. Of course, this spec is going to take you 2k plus very easy. I got some friends in the guild that are playing double Frost DK with the spec. They're sitting 2300 right now, just enjoying it. Like, they weren't 2300 before, they were like 2100, but then they use this spec consistency, burst it up. Absolutely insane. It's cool to see. Going over the PvP setup, you're going to want to be using Gladiator's Medallion to have that controlled trinket. Adaption, don't be using that. Like, that'll just take you out, and then you don't have a trinket, and then you just, like, all it takes is a simple fear, and you just wasted your trinket on fear. Then you get bursted and blown up. Like, you do not want to waste your trinket on that. As for the second talent, I'm going to be running Reinforced Armor, of course. This is because of my gear, since my gear is so high at the moment, and of course my artifact level and my gear both scale my health higher in PvP, and with Reinforced Armor, at the moment I have over 3 million health in PvP combat, which makes me quite tanky. People look at that and they go, we are not focusing that guy. That is a big health pool to have to burst through in a small CC timer. So it makes me really tanky. As for the next one, guys, you either want to be running Cadaverous Pillar. This will actually cause you against, like caster comps, anything that has a caster on it, Frost DK, to take a lot less damage from some of the abilities. Now, let's say you're facing a melee cleave and there's no caster on the team. Go ahead and go with Dark Sim. Also, guys, Dark Sim can be the difference between a 2300 DK, a 20, and a 26 to 2700 DK. Whether or not you can land your Dark Sims and steal CC to land kills with the consistency spec. Now imagine, guys, you're running this consistency spec, you're running on smaller cooldowns, you're bursting on something hard, you steal a CC that you're not supposed to have. Wham, you nail a target with it. Let's say the healer, let's say you stole, I don't know, whatever. Let's say you stole another stun, and now your 5-second stun's turned into an 8-second stun. Based on that, you know how much damage you can pump out with a consistency spec in 8 seconds? Extremely overpowered if you can use Dark Sim correctly. Create some focus macros for it, which I'll talk about in a few. I don't believe I have my focus macros set up on the PTR at the moment. Live servers are down right now, so that's why I'm on here kind of crafting this up. Yeah, I don't have my focus macros on here, so I'll have to go ahead and jump over to there to get them Dark Sim focus macros for you guys. As for the fourth spot. Now, guys, if you are intending to kill healers, you can go Heartstop Arroyo. It ends up being absolutely amazing. If you are planning on killing DPS, definitely go Necrotic. Now, whether or not you focus DPS or healer is going to be basically based upon the placement of your team and the placement of the other team. And I'll go ahead and, in a few, explain to you how to go about doing that. And, of course, kind of anticipating what Arroyo you're going to want to be using based upon what the healer is going to be, and of course what comp you're fighting. As for the next talent, I prefer using Death Chill. Death Chill is the best pill you can have out of all three of those. It can also save your life a lot when it comes to kiting single classes or kiting melee cleaves. I do know some DKs that like to use Frozen Center. because it actually helps their burst a little bit, and of course roots them, so you can use Tundra Stalker, which deals quite a bit more damage. And of course I'm going to be using with this spec Tundra Stalker. I do not like overpowered as much with the consistency spec. Tundra Stalker is going to make your, of course, frost strikes that you use a lot and generate, of course, more attack speed, more runic power that you dump your runic power into. Just a circle, of course, as you're throwing out them chains and hitting in them big frost strikes to stay on somebody. It just makes the pressure huge. It makes the damage huge. So you kind of chain all that together, keeping close in on somebody and nuking them down with that. Also, Death Chill makes it so your chains is no longer on a 5-second cooldown. It's not on a cooldown at all, so you can basically spam it at somebody if you want to, spam it at them twice to root them, or spam it at them 6 times just to make sure they're peeled and they're shifting out of druid form. Who knows what they're doing? But we're spamming chains at them like just a beast, so that's the reason why we're using that one. That's going to be it for the talents, guys. I'd have to say stick to those 2 specs if you want to get some rating in Arena. That's going to be the best and most efficient way currently to do that. The breath spec, of course, is still viable to generate rating on. It's going to be harder, but of course it is still viable. But if you want the easiest and best way to do it, it's going to be with this spec. So let's go ahead and jump over to the rotation side of things. Before we jump in on this rotation, I got a couple things I want to explain having to do with enchants and gear. Of course, I'm going to be talking about item enchants for your weapon. You want Fallen Crusader and Razor Eyes. Do not double stack Razor Eyes. Please, so help me if I catch you doing that. I don't know where it come from. I don't know who came up with the idea, but I'm pretty sure they're just trying to troll DKs and see how many people are dumb enough to lose 15% strength. You guys not understand how much 15% strength is. That is huge. That's like, look at your strength right now. You got 24,000 strength. You're going to lose 15% of that? And everyone's sitting here going, wait a minute, Haze is going to try math. This is going to be good. Shut up. Yeah, Haze can't math that. Haze ain't even going to try to math that. That math is way too much. Obviously, it's going to be like 2,400 strength, something roughly around that. 2,400, 2,500, which is just huge, guys. It's huge. It's every ability you have, so don't be caught doing that. I don't know where it came from. Like I think it came from early beta when Frost Strikes were extremely OP and they weren't as strong as Obliterates, and people were running Shattering. With the consistency spec, which was really strong back then because it would stack up the stacks really fast and they could spam through Frost Strikes, basically causing that to reoccur over and over again. Currently, it's not that great, guys, so don't get caught up doing that, please. The idea is not that amazing. I've tested it out, I've seen the damage, and truth be told, my damage was like almost 100k lower doing that, so it's not worth doing, trust me, guys. As for enchants, I already talked about the weapons. As for enchants on the other items, it doesn't matter when it comes to PvP, guys. Of course, it does in PvE. You just need to bounce your stats around, find out the best percentages. But as for PvP, stats really do not matter. The only thing that really matters is your item level. And of course, we're on the PTR. I don't have that item level I have on live right now, apparently, but that's okay. Item level basically scales by percentage. Now, as I'm at 872 item level. Of course, it starts off at 800 item level. And any base, like, let's say 10 item level higher from 8 to 810 is going to make me 1% stronger. So 872 is going to be about 7.2% stronger than, of course, the base PvPer. So getting your item level up is going to actually help you out quite a bit in Arena. A lot of people will say gear doesn't matter. But the more players you add into a situation, the more gear actually matters. So if you're doing 2v2, gear doesn't matter as much as it's going to matter in 3v3. And of course, in rated BGs, it's going to matter even more. Are you going to notice it if you come up against a DK that's, 72 item level higher than you? You're going to notice it by quite a bit. A DK at that item level could have around 2.2 million to about 2.4 million. And of course, I'm sitting at 3 million. There is a pretty large difference in a undergeared Frost DK versus a very geared Frost DK when it comes to PvP at the moment. There is quite a bit of scaling in self-survivability too. So a lot comes into play when it comes to getting stronger on a DK. And it's one of the reasons I'm putting so much effort into getting gear and, of course, artifact power. And before we start our DPS, let's pop up the artifact item right now. My artifact level looks like on the PTR is only 27. On live right now, I have it up to 31. So what you're going to want to do, it takes quite a bit of time to become I'd have to say arena strong on a Frost DK. You really have to put close to about 15, 16 plus points in here before you actually get to the point to where you really want to start stepping into arena, because of course this artifact, while I was building through it on live as I was leveling up, I noticed at the beginning until a certain point, breath spec was stronger, and then consistency spec started getting stronger, and then the consistency spec really took off when a lot of the base level stats of our abilities got stronger. So as you're coming down this, you basically want to take the bottom route and go as far south as you can, taking the south route down to Cindergo's Fury, which is going to be just a huge damage burst, and of course going to be one of the main sources to blowing somebody up. Huge damage comes out on that, of course. Then you're basically going to cut across to Cold as Ice. Now here is where the hard decision comes in. If you're going to level up really fast and not too worried about PvP, you're really just focusing on PvP, really just focusing on PvP, go up to Ice in your Veins for the heal, and then get Chill of the Grave for the ranged Frost Strike. That mechanic is so OP for arena, guys, it is ridiculous. I don't know how many times I've had a low health druid jump away from me or something and not be able to kill him in the past. Now I just pop off like a 300-400k Frost Strike on him, from 13 yards away, and they're going, what just happened? The other thing is, if you're lagging in game and you have Chill of the Grave, it'll make it so your Frost Strike always hits. You're never going to get that it is out of range, it's too far. You're never going to get that with Chill of the Grave, so it really comes in handy, guys, so make sure you get that. From there, you can have two choices. You can either go down to Frozen Soul, or like you see me, I just said heck with it since I was building it so fast. I went straight up to Mirror Ball, which removes harmful effects, something you really need in PvP. It's going to keep you alive. It's also going to keep you on the targets when you're generating kills. Absolutely amazing. Also, this is the key secret to 1v1ing a Windwalker Monk, which you're going to be really pissed that I'm telling you guys this. And I'll explain that more probably in a different video, but dispelling karma with that inside of arena is key, guys. So keep that in your mind. If you got karma on you and you got to kill a monk or something, you can just literally burst into full karma, dispel it off you, kind of like a Pally's Pop, and then go into them hard. Now, one of the things you want to get while building up this is ambidextrity. Close enough. Anyways, it makes you deal 40% damage on your Frost Strikes and obliterate on your offhand. Your offhands almost hit just as hard as your main hands, so it becomes very important to level that up. As I was talking about the consistency spec getting stronger than the breath spec, this is one of the key factors in it. And of course, this other ability that increases critical strike damage by your obliteration by 24% is a key factor in that too. And of course, you want to, after that, grab up some of your gold talents. Now, both of these the third and fourth gold talent aren't too amazing. They're really more like PvE orientated, but once you pick those up, you will see a quite bit of damage jump with your damage in PvP, especially for your multi-dotting. And Remorseless Winter, that nice little explosion at the end, ends up being, quite nice. It's really strong in PvP. If you got 3 or 4 targets around you, it's still going to hit, or PvE. If you got 3 or 4 targets around you, and you end up exploding that off with, extra 400%, it's going to deal quite a bit of damage. So it is a nice talent to have. Make sure you focus on, of course, that ranged Frost Strike, the heal for self-survivability, grabbing up that Cindergo's Fury first, and that's going to be about completing it for your artifact talents. Of course, once you reach level 30, you're going to unlock the extra artifact talent that's based on the other sword, and basically level it up. It'll increase your damage by like 5%. I'm closing on that gap pretty closely on live at the moment. I'm really curious to see how much is actually going to scale my damage and whether or not that 5% is going to affect me in PvP. So that's going to be interesting to watch. All right. Also, for the artifact items, I can't remember if these affect PvP, but people say no. But I'm not exactly 100% sure, so I'm just going to let you guys know they do affect world PvP, so I might as well talk about them. I'd have to say either go for increased damage done by your Frost Strikes or Obliterates, and of course your critical strike damage of your Obliterate. Those two are going to be the two that you really want to focus on getting. And if you can't get either of those, I'd have to say increased damage dealt by your Howling Blast by 10% is also a really good one to take. That one is also going to help you out fairly well in Mythic Pluses, things like that, because Howling Blast became really strong. And even in raids, Howling Blast is one of my usually top 5 abilities now, ever since I've leveled up Blast Radius by completing most of my talent tree on my live Frost DK. So It's kind of crazy that that's up that high. Did not expect that. So alright, let's get into some rotation stuff. Now, for the Frost DK rotation basic guide, all I said for the most part was slap the shinies. Now guys, I'm going to give you a secret to Frost DK rotation on this video that I don't believe I've ever touched on very much. Now, one of the two things that people give me crap for, well, three things people give me crap for, I'd have to say is that I don't pull my camera out far enough, and of course there's a reason I don't do that, because I actually can't grasp situations that are that close to me that are changing that effectively at melee range when I'm that far away. I can't take in all the information correctly, and I have to play in closer. It also is more intense to me and also a lot more fun. As for the next thing that people give me crap for is jumping. Now, the reason I jump, I'll explain that later on in the video. Those of you who are really experienced in PvP completely understand why I jump, and those of you who are kind of newer just find it very annoying that I do it. And no, it's neither of those are going to stop, guys. I'm sorry. But the secret to Frost DK rotation, and one of the things that people give me crap for, is people say I spam my buttons. And you're right, to the untrained eye, it does look like a Frost DK spams this button, but there's a reason I do what I do. Now, being that our rotation for keeping up DPS at the moment is based around dropping a lot of Frost Strikes, I tend to resort to spamming a lot of Frost Strikes, and of course a lot of other Frost DKs will too. The other thing is, when it comes to runic power management, you do want to manage your runic power, but once you've got your rotation down, you really don't have to manage your runic power anymore. It basically comes reaction. Now guys, I've seen some really geared Frost DKs, even some that have been live streaming, that use the add-on that procs up the abilities for them to attack with to deal maximum DPS, which of course is actually really good. I was watching this and he was dealing quite a bit of DPS. Now the only problem I was noticing is, especially when it comes to PvP, this is going to matter a lot more. And of course, if you're a top tier mythic raider, this is going to be something you also know, is when you're reacting to something instead of controlling it, your DPS is going to be a lot lower when it comes to a Frost DK. Since as a melee, we are kind of based around that Street Fighter rotation of trying to deal out as much pressure as we can, much Frost Strikes, much Obliterates, of course, reduce the cooldown, and come out hard with the rotation. So, all in all, the secret here is to not react to your rotation. It's to basically know what's coming up next. Like, he'd hit Obliterate, and he'd have enough runic power to Frost Strike, and instead of instantly Frost Striking, or being ready to Frost Strike, he'd wait till it popped up, it got highlighted, and he hit the button, which was causing his DPS to drop. Now, it doesn't cause your DPS to drop too much as a single, but as a whole, it causes your DPS to drop quite a much. Now, let's say you lack only about a half a second in your reaction time. Like, the ability comes up. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. I obliterate this, and Frost Strikes, I know my Frost Strike is going to come up on the next attack. So when I do it, I'm going to hit Obliterate and hit Frost Strike instantly. I'm all over that Frost Strike. While these other people are hitting Frost Strike, they'll hit it, and why it comes up, they'll wait for it to completely come off cooldown. They see the Frost Strike. Now, I'm already used it. I'm already blown through spamming the next button to my next ability, but they're just reacting and hitting Frost Strike. Frost Strike's up. Alright, so by the time I used Obliterate and Frost Strikes, it was literally 2 global timers. I did not allow space in between. By the time that next person does the Obliterates and switches over to the Frost Strike, it's going to actually waste maybe 0.6 seconds of that global timer reacting to the ability, other than just using it up front. So that's why a lot of time and experience is devoted to, of course, capping on a class's rotation and actually minimizing those slight timers between, of course, abilities, rotations, CCs, things like that. Now, this is just a huge secret to my DPS. I don't think I've ever talked about it in videos, maybe a long time ago. But as of recently, I haven't discussed this at all. So guys, you want to be kind of controlling your rotation other than reacting to it. Now, that kind of becomes hard when it's based upon procs, of course. Now, the other thing you can do if you are reacting, you want to be hitting that proc before it drops, basically. So like, like I just said, if you're dropping a Frost Strike and an Obliterate crit comes up, you better be all over that before the global timer comes off, because if you're popping it anywhere near after your global timer, you're losing time, you're losing DPS, you're losing pressure, and that's going to cost you a lot in the long run. And that's one of the reasons my DPS is so much higher than a lot of other Frost DKs and a lot of other classes inside BGs, is because I simply know that you can do just a huge amount of damage just closing those point-second gaps between, of course, jumping to different fights and or using it also in your rotation, or whether or not it's as simple as hard switching from a DPS to a healer and maximizing the profitability of getting full DPS instead of just partial. So I wanted to kind of talk to you guys about that. I haven't really discussed it too much. All right, so let's go ahead and go over a basic DPS for this. Spec, finally, we're here at the DPS. Oh gosh. All right. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to generate up your Obliterates, of course, for runic power. Now you need to kind of decide, are you looking to burst first? Are you looking to burst fast? Whether or not your placement is going on a healer, whether or not you're going on DPS. You need to kind of decide whether or not you want to burst within CC, things like that. But if you're playing, let's say, a double burst comp, you just want to go ham on a target, blow his face off. Basically what you're going to want to do, run in on a target, you're going to want to hit him with a Howling Blast, apply your dots, of course. Then you're going to want to drop some Obliterates to generate runic power. And of course, while you're doing this, your Razor Ice is stacking up, your Unholy Strength is stacking up. And of course, guys, this is an arena situation, so I'm not too worried about time right now. I'm doing this kind of slower so you guys can understand. And of course, I got some Howling Blast procs. What I want to do is pop off that Howling Blast proc whenever it pops up, of course. And right now, I'm going to drop Frost Strikes. Now, I'm going to get up to, of course, 3 stacks. I don't believe I'm rocking the right spec here. No, I am not. I'm using Murderous. All right, we got to switch over to Icy Talons real fast before we do this. And the reason being, because I really want to explain how to use this spec over the other one, since I do enjoy playing this one a lot more. Now, with this spec, all right, going back in again, you want to, of course, get up your runic power basically as much as possible, and then you're going to want to kind of build up your Icy Talons. Now you're going to, of course, build up your runic power again and proc one more Frost Strike right when you cap. This is going to be about when you burst, when you have, of course, your full haste up from your Icy Talons buff. You've got CDs rocking, you throw up Remorseless Winter, and then you're going to throw out major cooldowns, Pillar of Frost, throw out your Obliteration, and then smack him in the face with Cindergoza's Fury. Now, you're going to do that all as fast as possible. Now, everything I just said can all happen within, like, I'd say about 2 to 3 global cooldowns, based upon macros, of course. This needs to happen very quickly. The faster you do this, the better it's going to be. Now, you can also stagger your Frost Strikes while you're building up power to deal a little bit more damage off the bat. But I kind of like dropping my Frost Strikes right before I want to burst, and of course keeping them up to maximize that major potential on that damage. And of course, now we have them stacks. We have our haste. We have a lot of runic power. We have our cooldowns. Boom, boom, boom. Throwing out Obliteration. Oh, I got a nice proc. Throwing out Big Dragon. And of course, going out with Empowered Rune Weapon, using Frost Strikes to keep that up. Now I'm just going to dump Frost Strikes into the target. Major burst. Major burst. Anybody's going to have major time trying to live through that. A very hard time trying to live through that. Now, as you see, when I was bursting, I was relying heavily on Frost Strikes, kind of ignoring my Howling Blast proc on that. That's because, of course, Frost Strike's going to deal a huge amount of damage over Howling Blast at this point in PvP compared to that. Now, otherwise, if I was going into a normal rotation, we would fall back to that basic rotation of a Frost DK, which is spam Howling Blast to get runic power, spam Obliterate to get runic power. If Howling Blast procs, use that. If you have Frost Strike up and Obliterate's not a crit, you're going to use a Frost Strike. If not, go back to just spamming Obliterates to generate runic power and staggering back and forth between Frost Strike and Obliterate. It really is a basic concept, but one of the major issues when it comes to, as I said earlier in the video, of course, is a lot of people are reacting instead of pre-acting. We're going to call that pre-acting. That's a new word. We're going to use that. Pre-acting, which basically means I'm using my abilities, getting ready. I've decided what I'm going to do way before I actually do it, closing those gaps, completing your rotation, and completing that full-on pressure. And as you saw with how I kind of went about generating that burst, that's how you're going to maximize that pressure to absolutely smash on a healer and or target. Now, if you have 2 DKs like I'm saying that, which is a pretty popular comp at the moment among a lot of DKs, we really find it fun. This is going to be the best way to go about it. So playing these kind of bursty frost comps on a frost DK, you really got to decide, of course, in the middle of the arena matches, what you're going to do. I mean, you can basically create a plan to begin with, but of course you're going to have to adapt once you get inside the arena. Now I'm going to kind of talk about what you're going to be faced with as a frost DK, since most likely as a bursty comp, your job's going to be controlling the other DPS. Well, if they're ranged, it becomes kind of harder. But as you're fighting melee or anything with a melee on it, they can kind of basically tell you based upon their actions how you're going to play out this match. And I'm going to kind of explain this in a base form to kind of just pass this on to you guys. It's kind of something I picked up doing a lot of arena on the beta. And it's really kind of a base rule. It's really worked out quite well for me. So anyways, guys, so what we got going on here is we're going to be using these 3 target dummies as placement. As we got 2 DPS out there, and we got a DPS dummy right here. Now let's say we come out of arena right here. We're looking around. Oh gosh, both of the DPS over there are staying back. Both of those target dummies way over there. So what I'm going to do is run out with my partner. He's right next to me here. And my healer back here. We're going to move as a group, of course. And we're going to move probably hard right side, something like that. What I'm going to do is actually try and cast chains on these DPS and control what they're doing. Make sure they can't get on my healer. Make sure we get a nice opener. And then, of course, we're going to mob this healer over here, hiding behind a pillar. Alright, so these guys need to decide. Are they focusing DPS or my healer? If they focus us really hard, we're going to try and stick on the healer. But while I'm doing that, I'm also going to be using chains on the DPS to eliminate a lot of damage on myself and or my partner. If they focus my healer, which my healer right now is that crazy little gnome with the mask over there, with that sexy mustache. Gosh, I wish I had a mustache like that. You gnome. Anyways, guys, so if they go over there to my healer, I'm going to be DPSing on this target. Why I'm actually using either a mouse over macro or focus macros to change the DPS while I keep up consistent pressure for major peels. Now, if you're competing in this game and your healer is like a Resto Shaman or Disc Priest and you're trying to kill a Holy Pally, you're going to lose probably just based on bubble unless you have a nice dispel. I don't know if they have dispel. I don't know. Anyways, if there's a priest on the other team, kill it. That's all I know. If it's white, blue, anything but pink, just blow it up. Alright, so there is a base rule. Of course, you're going to come up against a lot of other bursty comps. As I said, controlling chains. Now, let's say another cop you come up to, you're kind of hesitant, and they rush across mid as fast as possible. What you're going to want to do is chains one of the DPS while he's running. Chains the opposite one from the one you want to kill. Allow the one you want to kill to run his stupid butt all the way across the map to where you are, where you want a DPS on him, and maybe you're hitting his healer or the other DPS with chains where they can't get in on the target, and you and your other DPS are just nuking on this guy, and you just absolutely shred through him as double DPS, because the other team can't even get to him while you're, of course, controlling that situation with chains. Now, as a DK, if this guy runs across the map and just starts focusing you, you have control of where this guy goes. He has to follow you to deal pressure. So one of the ways you can either peel him and or force a kill, just make him chase you around the arena over here. Make his healer have to run all the way out around the pillar to chase you and deal damage. And of course, as your other DPS is sitting on him, that one DPS, while you already peeled, the other DPS is not going to be able to out DPS both of you. So they are in a lot of trouble there. So that's kind of how you play out arenas on a Frost EK right now, with these kind of very bursty TSG and or double Frost EK comps. So that's how you just want to kind of control the match and think about it. The other thing you're going to want to keep in mind is, after I make this video, there's going to be a lot of Frost EKs probably doing this to enhance their game a little bit. But as you see there, you use a lot of chains at range and, of course, from far away to control the targets that you're fighting. It's going to be very key to be doing that. And I'd have to say that's about it when it comes to approaching an arena. Now, let's say you're coming out on a target, there's a healer and a stealthy or something. What you're going to want to do is go ahead and, the gate opens up. Come out with your stealthy, come out with your healer, come out with your other DPS, and you're going to want to mob across as fast as you can and try to hit something or heal a DPS that hits something to cue yourself into combat. Make sure you don't get sapped. Make sure things like that don't happen. And as you get close, as you're playing a Frost DK, you can actually throw up Remorseless Winter as you're closing the gap on a target. Make sure you leave just enough room to actually get the stun on them if you're going to want to open burst or something. Or you can wait 20 seconds to set up burst a little bit better to nuke a target. But it's one of the ways you can knock out a stealthy as you're playing a Frost DK. It can kind of hurt your damage if you want to burst a little sooner. So make sure you're kind of coordinating that with your partners. But that's about the basic setup when it comes to doing arena and or 2s and or 3s. Remember not to LOS your healer and or partners as much as possible. If you do need to LOS the other teams to stay alive, go ahead and use your chains and kite around the backside, but make sure your healer is somewhere on the other side, otherwise you're going to kill yourself and your healer. But that about covers that. I will do probably an arena video within the next couple days. Hopefully 3s. If not, guys, I'll do some 2s. I haven't done many 2s this season. I'll probably start out maybe doing some double DPS, and then as I get a little higher, transfer over to some healer DPS. But overall, I'd have to say, guys, that's going to cover you quite well for placement and, of course, initiating combat and controlling it on your Frost DK. Real quick, we're going to talk about CC and, of course, macros. Basically, we know that our stun's going to be based upon around a 40 to 45 second cooldown based upon how low we can get our burst. Pillar of Frost. So, of course, you have to chain those two together to, of course, get a stun. And that's pretty basic. It's going to stun the people around you and, of course, your focused target usually. As for your other CCs, you basically have two more kind of CCs you can use in Arena. You're going to have your Mind Freeze. For Mind Freeze, you're going to want to have focus macros. 3 focus macros generally for different targets. One to kick either the casters, any 3 of the caster DPS that could be out there, and of course the healer, which could be in different places at all times. So you want to be pretty fluent with, of course, these 3 focus macros. As of course you can see, I don't have them on the PTR. I was just talking about that. I'll go ahead and put them down in the comments below, of course, guys, along with the burst macro and any other macros I use. I don't really use that much, to tell you the truth, besides those focus macros and my burst macros currently. Basically, you just want them, they're pretty easy. It just kind of, it's like a target macro that lets you target 1, 2, or 3 on the right-hand side. And if you're using Gladius, it's going to be even bigger. You can move that around, tell them people where you want to be. And, of course, it focuses those ones and either hits them with the CC and or interrupts. So, in this case, it's going to be Mind Freeze. So, you're going to be trying to interrupt your casting times on either healing when it comes to the healer. I mean, it's very strong when you're focusing a DPS and you catch a Mind Freeze in ranged when you're not even clicked on the healer. Like, the healer's going, oh crap, this is bad. You land that, you land a short CC, it's already GG. You have enough time to blow up that DPS. And, of course, if you're on the healer, you land that kick, it's also quite nice. You don't necessarily need to use that macro as much if you're blowing up healers with a bursty TSG comp, so you're kind of safe with that. As for the Dark Sim, it's going to be the same basic principle. You're going to be basically making macros for your Dark Sim to focus targets, and the reason you're doing this is you do not want to make your Dark Sim predictable, because better people will be able to see it. Now, not only do you have to time it correctly, you need to be sly about it. So let's say you're focusing a warrior right here, you're kicking his butt, you're about to kill him, and this Resto Druid's like, I'm going to Cyclone this Frost DK and make it so he can't kill my warrior. So you're waiting for it, you see it. So I'd say right as around that Cyclone is about like 70 to 80%, you're going to hit your Dark Sim macro, cast your Dark Sim on this Resto Druid, steal that Cyclone, and of course the Cyclone's going to hit you when you steal it. And let's say you have Trinket up. You're going to pop Trinket on that. You're going to Cyclone him right back afterwards and then finish off the warrior. So you can basically use that ability to counter peels and grant you kills on a Frost DK. And you'll notice as you're using it, you'll notice patterns when it comes to certain healers and DPS like a Resto Druid Cyclone, that you'll kind of notice it coming up. And of course, if you're using your focus macros and watching the sidebars or watching your Gladius about cast times, you should be able to see when they're casting it. And the better you are at catching those things, of course, the higher rated you're going to be able to push an arena. That is a very key ability that a lot of DKs kind of look over. You cannot look over that if you want to push to end game and or very high ratings when it comes to a Frost DK. Going up against Frost DK Survival. Definitely got to go in on this Frost DK. He's playing defensive, which is going to put him in a bad spot. We're going to get RP gain on him, and we're going to come out on him quite a bit more aggressive and he's going to be able to come out on us. At this point, he's Wraith Walking, trying to do that little thing I was talking about, but of course, I know that he's doing it, and this is where things are going to go bad for him. Good game. So we kind of showed you what happens when you know a DK is going to do what he's going to do before he does it. And you notice how he was playing defensive without using chains, and I kind of just stuffed everything in his face. It was because he was being focused. He had to use everything on defensives, and obvious he didn't have any defensives because, you know, that's all he kind of had was a couple death strikes, and it was over. But overall, it was, yeah, like you got to be more aggressive than that on a DK. That's what happens if you don't come out some kind of aggressive or control the situation. Skippy's using Chill Streak. He's evil. I'm gonna have to use Chill Streak to keep up with the damage. Yeah, look at that top damage Chill Streak. Evil. I'm watching you. I'm watching you, Skippy. All right. Yeah, that should be it for the actual scrims, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed just seeing how you put these to use, messing around with those a bit. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like, guys. I really put a lot of effort into this one with trying to put in some kind of informative detail with setting you guys up, and I feel like it ended up pretty good. Remember to subscribe. Until next time, guys, this was your boy Hazzed. Going up against Windwalker Mage, more than likely one of these might be aggressive. No, like we haven't had anybody really that aggressive come out on us today. It's kind of funny. Alright, so I got chains on this guy. It's going to cause him not to be able to move. Gonna throw out dots. Looks like they are focusing my partner at the moment. Frost bolts are coming out. Looks like on him. Karma's up. He should be able to dispel that off like I was talking about with anti-magic shell, since he is also a DK, and we should be able to burst right through this Monk's major CDs and actually kill him, and that's gonna be GG, Mr. Monk. Gonna AMS right here, and just kind of going on the mage. Got that preemptive AMS for that aggressive. He's gonna ice block. I'm gonna cut back behind this pillar. Just a little LOS here. See how I can't see him right there, and that makes it so he can't CC me. Good game. Going up against an Unholy Mage is going to be fun. They are definitely kind of playing defensive here. He's going in Viz. I'm going to AoE so I can keep him out there. Going in on the DK since he is the stationary target. I'm going to come out with Big O Blitz here and just dump Froststrike into this guy. Obliterates now that he has Anti-Magic Shell. And going to Dragon now that he doesn't have that up, and he's going to go down pretty fast. Going to Anti-Magic Shell on this Mage. Anti-Magic Shell, the pre-one, the aggressive one I was talking about. Gonna put him down pretty fast. That's gonna be GG. Talk about survivability on the Frost DK when it comes to Arena. You basically have two survival, actually three survival abilities, I'd have to say. You have about Anti-Magic Cell, Icebound Fortitude, and Wraith Walk. The ways you go about using these, of course, when you have Anti-Magic Shell, you can dispel magical abilities and makes you immune to basically most of the damage you're going to take. I got a sneeze coming on. I'm going to fight it, though. And at last, I lost. Oh! Hey, how's it going, guys? This is your boy Hazzed, and today we're going to be going over the Legion Frost DK Arena Guide, equipping you with the, of course, best specs, best way to DPS, and, of course, the best knowledge that I can hand you for granting you some Frost DK rating. Always, all of shimmer damn finger wrong. Screw it.